Welcome to Instant Replay for MLS Match Day 28. I'm your host, Andrew Wiebe, and as always, we're taking a closer look at the most controversial refereeing decisions in Major League Soccer. We start with Game 1 of the Son Heung-min era in LAFC. Chicago is the venue, LAFC in town, 77th minute. Son running in behind, and oh my gosh, is this a penalty? On the field, referee Ricardo Montero says no. But it's so close. It looks like Tehran might have gotten a touch when I watched it the first time, maybe. Actually not. Okay, possible, no, but when you see the replays, it's clear after a few looks that there is no touch from Fire defender Carlos Tehran. Edwin Jurasevich, the VAR, initiates the review, Montero goes to the monitor, and what we all see on the review comes to fruition. This is a foul. And a penalty, and Denny Bwanga takes it. No opening goal for Son, but a drawn foul nevertheless. Okay, to Red Bulls RSL. Yes, you hollered at me, you gave me a bunch of plays to look at, and we shall go through them starting in the 80th minute. Eric Choupo-Moting wants a foul on this challenge from Brian Vera, but Ricardo Fierro, the referee, doesn't call it. Initially, it's one of those where you're kind of like, yeah, he probably got the ball, but when you see the replay, it's clear that Brian Vera does not get the ball, and that's what Younes Markachi, the VAR, sees. So he sends Fierro to the monitor, and rightfully so, and this is a penalty for the Red Bulls. Well done to the crew on this one. 5 minutes later, it gets complicated, like really complicated. This time, it's Diego Luna and Kyle Duncan, and they're going at it. And there's 2 rounds to this one, so let's start with the first round. It looks to me here like Kyle Duncan fouls Luna before this ever pops off. Look at this little stiff arm here. Luna certainly thinks so, RSL does, but the foul's not called on the field by Fierro, and that's okay. That's his right, I respect it. It's definitely not an elbow to the face as Pablo Mastroeni masterfully acts out. However, oh boy, here we go. Time for the afters and the payback. That is a literal football tackle, but by who though? Luna reaches out initially and he does get a little grab, but Lloyd Sam correctly diagnoses this one straight away as a Kyle Duncan hold and not a Luna foul. That's how I see it at least. I feel like the AR might have seen that as well. Just based on the flag raised, you see it sort of wave that little bit like a foul is coming with the left arm, which would indicate that the AR was going to point toward the goal RSL are attacking, thus a foul in favor of RSL. But Fierro gets himself in trouble in my opinion by going straight to the yellow, a second yellow, and the VR just can't intervene here because it's a yellow card foul. All in all, Luna sees red, and that's an unfortunate decision for me based on the facts. This is not justice in my opinion. I think Diego Luna should still be on the field, but he's not. And time rolls on, and eventually VAR Younes Markachi sends Fierro to the monitor. And now we're reviewing the play for violent conduct on Duncan. I get that. You can easily foul this one as intentional, non-negligible contact to the head of the neck with a headlock. It's off the ball. By the law, I completely get it. Had it felt incidental by Duncan, I would have said, come on, let's just call this one a yellow, rescind the Luna yellow, and it's all good. But that's a 2-armed intentional horse collar takedown. I don't really have an issue with the violent conduct red coming out here. For me, that's the correct call. Okay, deep breath. There's a lot going on here, and somehow there's more? 94th minute. This time it's a penalty for the Red Bulls. Justin Glad and Choupo-Moting doing battle, and Glad grabs Choupo-Moting and he goes down. Fierro calls the penalty on the field, but Markachi sends him to the monitor, and that confuses me because I don't see anything clear and obvious other than the grab and foul by Glad. As for the offside, which is what Fierro says the review is for when he announces his final decision, I mean, maybe if you had an offside line, but then it would still be razor thin if it was offside. To me, it looks pretty darn even and certainly not clearly and obviously offside. Well, what about a potential handball? That could be, but it looks to me like it hits Glad's shoulder and not Choupo-Moting's hand. In my opinion, this is a confusing review and one that I don't think should have been sent in the first place. Fierro agreed. He stuck with his call on the field. Penalty. Okay, Vancouver supporters, you've sat through enough. I know you want me to hit the Eddie Ocampo play. 27th minute, Ocampo on a yellow card, and he's going to hit the back of Victor Costa and get a second yellow from Tim Ford. Caps fans were furious. They were, well, really riled up, to put it lightly. Me? I'd be more fired up about Ocampo's decision-making here. What are you doing, Eddie? You're on a yellow card less than a half an hour in. Victor Costa is never going to get to this ball. It's sailing over his head. So why be the one to initiate needless contact through the back of Costa? It just doesn't make sense to me. There was some frustration about this play simply, quote, not being a red card, and yeah, I would be frustrated about that too because it wasn't a red card, it was a second yellow card. Therefore, Jorge Gonzalez, the VAR, just can't get involved. Now, could Tim Ford have let this one go and just waved play on? Sure. I don't think anybody complains too much about this if it's just a no call in the run of the game, especially because Costa is in all likelihood not getting anywhere near this ball. In fact, I would have preferred that decision from Ford. But I can't say that Ocampo absolutely did not deserve a yellow card because he put himself on the chopping block here by initiating the contact through the back of an attacking player. It was just a bad decision by Ocampo. There was another call in this match that Vancouver fans were fired up about 50 minutes in. This time it's a penalty for San Jose. The infraction is by Tristan Blackman, once again on Costa, and it's this little push and then obviously the reaction by Costa. He goes down pretty easy that Ford calls on the field. Jorge Gonzalez, the VAR, sends him to the monitor. He says this is clearly and obviously not a foul. But this is where the call on the field is so crucial. If this wasn't called a penalty live, which I would not have a huge issue with for what it's worth, given the contact is pretty minimal, I would never call for a review. It could be a foul, sure, but clear and obvious? Not for me. However, the call on the field is penalty, so the burden of proof is on the clear and obvious reversal. It's got to be clearly and obviously not a foul. So when Ford goes to the monitor and sees that little push in the torso right as Costa is planting and attempting to shoot, we all see that, right? I don't know how you'd ask him as a VAR to stand up there and say it's clearly and obviously not a foul. In many ways, I think Ford had no choice but to uphold his call based on the protocol, and that's what he does. Austin Houston, 73rd minute. Initially, Alexis de Silva does not call a penalty on the field, but David Barry sends him to the monitor, and the play is called a penalty, and oh man, it's just, gosh, this one is... It's frustrating, and that frustration and annoyance is mostly directed at Pablo Ortiz, the Houston Dynamo player, who just pulls up the landing gear and makes the absolute most out of what is minimal contact. However, the last word of that sentence is, you guessed it, contact, and Robert Taylor does kick into the back of Ortiz's left leg. I just don't think it brings Ortiz down. Ortiz is what brings Ortiz down and forces both the referee, who says no PK initially, and the VAR, who says PK, well, it forces their hand. I get why it was sent for review. I get why it was called the way it was, penalty, but it leaves me feeling icky because, well, I would call that about 85% simulation. And we know the red card for Cincinnati's Brandon Nunga that, well, Cincy did not like. I get it. It's more unlucky than intentional here, but come on, that's gonna be serious foul play every single time. The extended leg, he's very late to the challenge, the studs are exposed, the body weight on the unprotected player's leg, for me, that's gonna be a red card by the law, and I have no issue with the call. And that's it for Match Day 28. I'm Andrew Wiebe. Big thanks to my producer and editor on this one, Rich Hernandez. We'll see you next time.